let's talk about Middlemarch. I mean, sure, lots of people have opinions of this novel. Virginia Woolf once called it one of the few novels written for grown-up people. Emily Dickinson said, "What do I think of Middlemarch? What do I think of Glory?" Distinguished authors Julian Barnes and Martin Amis both called it the greatest novel in the English language. And they're not all good opinions that people have. Nietzsche criticised the novel for construing sufferings as a mean of expiating the debt of sin characterised by moralistic females. While British Secretary of Education Michael Groves even went so far to say it was superior to Twilight. The problem with these quotes is they tell you much more about the quotee than they do about Middlemarch. Snob, poet, fanboys, probably likes to lick swines in a non-consensual manner. Definitely likes to lick swine in a non-consensual manner. So maybe we're best off ignoring the critics and discussing the actual book. And that's just the problem. How does one discuss Middlemarch? It's vast. It's like the night sky. And much like the night sky, one's place in the world changes one's view of it. This is a novel that upon rereading, you'll have a completely different experience. That your experience is going to be different to mine. And I know this is going to sound a little masturbatory, but this is a novel that can teach you about yourself. The novel started off as two separate novels on George Eliot's desk. In 1869, Eliot began working on a project called Middlemarch, which focused on the character of Lydgate. Work on this novel sort of stopped when Eliot became distracted when her lover's son contracted tuberculosis, something that would become fatal to him. In December of 69, Eliot then began working on a new novel, which she titled Miss Brooks. The title character, of course, Dorothea Brooks, is the first character we meet in the novel, in this novel here, Middlemarch. At some point, Eliot decided it would be best to combine the novel into one. Not happy with just two storylines, Eliot added the story of the courtship of Fred and Mary and the disgrace of Nicholas Bolstrom into the mix. It's the contrast of characters and storylines which are really interesting. One of the criticisms of this novel is that the character Dorothea is boring, and indeed Eliot paints her as saintly, but in contrast to Rosamond, both characters become more vivid and more lively. Rosamond and Dorothea don't meet until the very end of the novel, but to imagine either character without the other one is to lessen both of them. Without Rosamond, Dorothea actually is boring, and this book isn't a masterpiece. The thought of these two characters swapping situations and imagining how they would deal with each other's problems really adds depth to this novel. It's even evident in their names. Dorothea's name means gift of God, while Rosamond's name means rose of the world. Dorothea is saintly, Rosamond earthly. Dorothea flawless, Rosamond human. And then there's Fred, because every character needs a lovable, good-hearted idiot. And that's really all I want to say about Fred. Every storyline in this novel focuses on the link between money and happiness. The pursuit of it is a corrupting influence on Bolstrom. However, the lack of it helps to reform Fred. Dorothea is kept from happiness by her fortune, but lack of fortune drives Lydgate to despair. Rosamond doesn't care about money at all, but Ladislaw is desperate for some of his own. It's not just contrasts of characters which add to this novel, we can also examine similarities. Fred starts the novel with an easy come, easy go, careless attitude towards money, and we can see that this exists in his sister Rosamond too, later in the novel. And not only does Fred's attitude towards money at the start of the novel help us understand Rosamond helps to remind us where Fred started at and help us see his transformation a lot better. So these four separate stories, which barely intercept on the surface, seem to do nothing but interact when you read the novel. They're lively and they add stuff to each other. George Eliot would not have been able to pull this off if she couldn't write characters. None of the characters blend. They're all distinct and different, and even the minor characters are well formed and really could have become major characters if Eliot wished them to. We have the Dickensian style villain that is Raffles. We have the pedantic and selfish Casaubon. We have the kind-hearted and forgiving Caleb Garth. We have the centre of town gossip, Mrs. Cadwallader, and we have the subservient Celia Brooks, who Eliot often uses as a figure of ridicule. Eliot often uses her wit to make Celia sound foolish. It's Celia who utters the line, and of course, men know best about everything, except what women know better. Dorothea even laughs at Celia's line in the novel, which causes Celia to say, well, I mean about babies and these things. Through Celia, Eliot makes many of the accepted views of the day sound positively stupid. Eliot also likes to have a little bit of fun with her wit, and I'll just give you, this is one of my favourite quotes in the book. At that time, the opinion existed that it was beneath a gentleman to write legibly or with a hand in the least suitable to a clerk. Fred wrote the lines demanded in a hand as gentlemanly as that of any viscount or bishop of the day. The vowels were all alike, and the consonants only distinguishable as turned up or turned down. The strokes had a blotted solidity, and the letters disdained to keep the line. In short, it was a manuscript of that venerable kind, easy to interpret when you know beforehand what the writer means. Eliot's writing is just lovely. Her descriptions are lush and vivid. They're full of unique turns and phrases which just paint this full picture. You're not sure if you want to rush into the next sentence and the next line, or if you want to slow down and really savor and take it in and understand exactly what she's saying. It's like if you're out to dinner and you need to get a fantastic dish. Do you just want to wolf it down, or do you want to savor it and eat it slowly? And speaking of wolves, here's when we come back to that Virginia Woolf quote, because Eliot is not afraid to use every word that she knows, every word at her disposal. She picks the best words or the best combinations of words, no matter what they are. She never picks the easiest. And it's really written for the experienced writer, or dare I say, for grown-ups. And it's certainly not where I would recommend starting as your classic. It's not a starting place for classics, it's a destination. Overall, this is a fantastic novel, one of the best novels ever written, a novel that can be reread infinite times. Highly recommend. Bye.